What's up, YouTube, and welcome to the Ultimate Halls of Lightning Paladin Solo Farm Guide. I've been wanting to make this video for a long time, and I've got a lot to say, so let's just dive right in. First things first, I'd like to just give a quick introduction to this farm. At about 3.6, maybe 3.7k gear score as a prop pally, you can just walk into Halls of Lightning, normal, not heroic, and just start soloing it. It's not very hard. You basically just do your tanking rotation and things die. You're going to want to make sure you judge light, obviously, so you can heal yourself up, and you're going to want to make sure you use Seal of Command, which I'm going to talk about later. But basically, you just solo all the trash pulls up to the second boss while avoiding the first boss patrol, and you're going to get a lot of Relics of Ulduar, a lot of money, a lot of greens, a lot of grays, and a lot of Eternals from doing it. It's also nice because it's a pretty AFK farm. Once you have it down, you can just sort of do it with like some Netflix up on the side or whatever on your second monitor, and it doesn't take a lot of your attention to keep it going. So very easy way to make money if you've got a geared prop pally. I would definitely recommend it, and I have a lot of fun doing it. I like soloing stuff, so check it out, see what you think. This guy's going to tell you everything you need to know to do it smoothly and easily. So this is the spec that we're using for this farm. A lot of this is pretty standard, but I do want to go over a couple things. The first of which is Stoicism. So you got to have Stoicism because the Reavers in these pulls will stun. And if you don't have Stoicism, the stun is long enough that the Sky Callers, the ranged mobs, will actually walk away from you and start shooting you, and the shots knock you back. So not only do you have to go get that mob, but he's going to be knocking you away from him, and there's another mob, the Tactician, that puts a debuff on you that makes you take damage when you move. So you're going to be running back to the mob, taking damage while you're moving, taking damage from the other mobs in the pull, trying to get the Skycaller back in the AoE, and it becomes a nightmare. So you got to have Stoicism. Obviously, we pick up full 5 out of 5 dodge and 5 out of 5 parry just for the mitigation. You also got to make sure you pick up Divine Guardian, because you're going to get a lot of extra absorption out of Sacred Shield that way. And don't pick up Spiritual Attunement, obviously, because no one's going to be healing you during this farm. I used to go higher into Conviction and not get Crusade, but then I realized that this is actually 6% damage against all the enemies we kill in this farm, and so that's really, really strong because it's 6% damage on all your attacks and all your procs and all that stuff, but also on Consecration, on Holy Shield, on things that can't crit. So this is a very strong talent to make sure you get. Definitely pick up Pursuit of Justice. It just makes everything go faster. And then you have 2 flex points to work with. Now, I end up putting them usually into Conviction because I just want the extra crit. You could choose to fill out Improved Righteous Fury for that extra 2% damage taken. Reckoning is definitely worth picking up. It won't be up all the time because if this is going well, you won't be getting hit that much, but when you get stunned, you take a bunch of hits at once, and it's really nice when you come out of that stun to have Reckoning up so you can get more Judgment of Light procs when you start attacking again. So I definitely would get 4 out of 5 in this, and if you wanted to put another point into that instead of crit, it wouldn't be the end of the world. I don't think it's worth it. I think you're going to get it most of the time when you're going to get it, even at 8%, but it's up to you, obviously. As far as glyphs, not a lot of glyphs make a huge difference for this farm, but I would definitely pick up Glyph of Hammer of the Righteous. It's just one more target being hit. It's just more damage for you. Glyph of Divine Plea is worth it because you're always going to have Divine Plea up, so you might as well take 3% less damage all the time. And then Glyph of Salvation is actually kind of useful when you are low and you want to, put up some damage mitigation, but not use Forbearance. This is a good way to do that. So minor glyphs are pretty minor for Paladins, but Glyph of Lay on Hands technically is helpful because if you need to lay on hands during this farm, you can. All right, so let's talk for just a second before I go forward about Seal of Command versus Seal of Corruption. I was doing Seal of Corruption for a while because I thought that the stacking dot that I could get on a bunch of mobs would be higher DPS, and I was wrong. I did a bunch of testing, and actually it's higher DPS to just do your thing with Seal of Command on. But the biggest reason is that your Seal of Command procs from your auto attacks have a chance themselves to proc your Judgment of Light heal. So when you're hitting a mob that has Judgment of Light on it, your auto attack and the Seal of Command damage both have a chance to proc that Judgment of Light heal. Now, if you're auto attacking a mob and the mob next to it both have the Judgment of Light debuff on them, you have 3 chances to proc Seal of Judgment of Light, because you have the auto attack on the mob you're attacking, you have the Seal of Command hit on the mob you're attacking, and you have the Seal of Command hit on the mob next to the mob you're attacking. So this gets pretty out of control, and you'll see in some of these clips how many procs of Judgment of Light I can get in one swing, but sometimes it's like 7. It's crazy, because if you auto attack a mob and then hammer that mob, and say you've judged 3 mobs, because you can just choose a different mob to judge every time, and you should, and they'll see why in a second. It's an insane amount of proc potential, because not only do you have the auto attack on the first mob, you also have the Seal of Command hit on the first mob, and you have the Seal of Command hit on the second mob from the auto attack, and you have the Seal of Command hit on the third mob from the auto attack,
and you have the Hammer of the Righteousness hit on the first mob, and the Seal of Command hit from the Hammer of Righteousness on the first mob. You also have the Seal of Command hit on the second mob from the Hammer of the Righteousness, and the Seal of Command hit on the third mob from the Hammer of the Righteousness. So it's 8 total proc chances.
But none of that is available if you're using Seal of Corruption. So that's why we use Command, and that's why we judge multiple things at once and not just one thing at a time. So as far as the route goes, and I want to mention this right at the start, don't walk into the instance until you are ready to start, because as soon as you walk into the instance and it makes an instance for you, the boss pat starts moving. So if you walk in and you kind of like get a drink and hang out for a second, set up, and then you start, it's going to be random where the boss is, and you're not going to be able to count on him being a certain place. But if you go in and you immediately start walking and you immediately start the pull right away, he's always going to be in the same spot every time, and it's going to make it very consistent. You're going to know how to do the route. It's going to be easier. It's going to be faster. So with that said, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to pull these 2 Reavers down into the first pull. There's probably a ranged mob in this pack, so make sure you go to that ranged mob first and pick him up and get him in melee range so he'll follow you. Otherwise, he's going to be shooting you from up top as you're down here, and it's going to pull the next pack, and it's going to be a nightmare. So we pull these guys down close to this second pack on the right here, and you're going to kill them pretty close here, so that when they're almost dead, you can pull the pack just to your right, because the boss will be patting down towards you at this point, and you're going to want to make sure you can pull this next pack before he gets onto them. So I'm going to pull him right here with his shield, and pull him out of that little area so that when the boss shows up, they don't pull him along with them. Then you just kill this pack right after the first one, right down here. So once these guys are dead, obviously you're going to loot everything real quick. The idea for this first section is to get everything dead before we go to the elemental section, so that when we come back from the elemental section, we can just run right out. So I pull one of these dwarves down here because it's a pain to get him if you leave him for later. And then we pull him all the way up to this next section up the ramp here, and I pull these other 2 dwarves in as well. And it's going to be a similar situation to the one we just had. You're going to kill this pack right here, and then as soon as the boss gets too close for comfort, basically, because he's coming up towards us now, you're going to just walk right behind you up those stairs there and get the next pack. So it's worth mentioning at this point that not everyone will be able to kill this pack fast enough that you can then pull the pack up top these stairs before the boss gets to you, and that's fine. If that's the case, just pull that pack at the bottom of these stairs here back down the ramp that you came up to get to them a little bit, and that way the boss, you'll be still out of the boss's aggro range. You can kill that pack right down there, and then as soon as the boss pats back away, then you go up the stairs and do the pack at the top of the stairs. It should be very similar timing. I just happen to have gear that's good enough I can pull both packs at the same time and kill them a little bit faster, but it's not necessary. Then you continue down the ramp here into the next pack, and we're also going to pull the dwarf down this next ramp, pull him into the pull as well. The boss is going to pat back this way before this group of stuff is dead, and we're actually going to let him pass us by, and then when he's up to our right, patting around, then this pack will be just dead, and we'll go down to the left here and get the next pack, the last pack of humanoids. And we'll pull them back to where we are now and kill them here. And that way the boss can pat by and come right back again, and it's never a problem. So right here you can see, I killed those guys fast enough that I could have pulled the pack there, but the boss is patting in. So don't worry too much if your gear is not good enough to do this as fast as I'm doing it, because there's a built-in timer essentially with the boss patrol, in that if you're killing stuff really fast, it won't matter because you're still going to have to wait for him to pat by. The most important thing for this pack, because you do have to drag it, is that if there are sky callers, the ranged guys, you want to make sure you go up to them and start meleeing them first. Because once they're in melee range, they'll follow you around in melee range, but if you go to a different mob and start trying to pull the whole pack and the sky caller's over in the corner shooting you, it's going to be a pain to get him back into melee range and then drag him, because everything has to come out of the way of the boss pat before you start killing it, really. But then just pull it around this corner, and you're very safe here from being able to pull the boss. And after these guys, you loot everything you've killed, and we're going to go to the elemental section. And like I said, having killed all the humanoids first means that once we're done with the LE section, we can just run right out of the instance. You don't have to worry about killing these slags a second time. Remember to grab that fire elemental on the right there in the slag pit as you come out, because that's a mob that will give loot and is worth killing. So I try to pull these slags to the top of the stairs before I even kill them, because as soon as the slags start dying, they start slowing you with the blast wave that they do when they die. So if you kill them down below at the bottom of the stairs and then walk up the stairs, you're walking up the stairs slowed the whole time, and it's just going to slow the run down. So I try to pull them into the next pack, basically. As far as the safety of these LE pulls go, definitely have your fire aura on as soon as you enter the slag pit, because that's when armor is less useful than fire resistance at that point onward. Killing, if you're like having trouble with survivability and whatnot, in this farm in general, I would recommend doing these LE pulls one at a time. It's very safe doing them one at a time, judging 2 mobs with light. It's pretty easy to do 2 pulls, but it starts to add up when you get a bunch of Steam Ragers and they're all doing their knockback on you. It can be pretty dicey. Just remember to judge multiple mobs with light and continue to rotate around which one you're attacking, and you should be okay. This is a very valuable part of the farm because these guys all drop crystallized water or fire. The water doesn't sell that well, but the fire does. So definitely don't want to skip these LEs. This is some of the biggest juice you'll get. The Firestorm guys do a lava burst cast, so you can stun them to stop that, or if you're Blood Elf, you can silence that. It's not a huge deal, but it's just a little more mitigation that you can work in once you're comfortable. So just kill these guys up here, finish off the elemental section, and then we're going to just run straight out of the instance. We're going to kite the slags all the way out. We're not going to kill them because, like I said, they don't drop any loot and they slow you when they die, so they're not worth killing. And it's very easy to just kite them all the way out of the instance. Another reason it's nice to have killed all the humanoids before we come back is that while we're running out, you're going to be able to choose which way you run out based on where the boss is. If you did leave a pack up in the front in the humanoid section, the first section, before you went to the elementals, I would recommend just pulling those slags into that pull. Just kite them to the pull that you have left, and just do them with that pull, because they don't really hit very hard, and that way you won't be slowed any of the times you're actually running out. You'll just be slowed during the pull, which shouldn't matter. So I want to talk a little bit about ability prio while you're doing this farm, and what abilities you got to make sure you're using on cooldown and which ones don't matter as much. The most important ability you need to keep up all the time is Sacred Shield. Sacred Shield is like the difference between this farm being sort of not quite doable and being super easy. I would recommend getting a weak aura, like the one I have, that tells you when it's not up so that you can make sure you're keeping it up, because it's not always easy to look up at your buff bar and notice whether it's up or not all the time. After Sacred Shield, I would say the next biggest priority of move to use is Holy Shield. Now, Holy Shield's not the most exciting move a lot of the time, but it is super good for this farm because it brings our avoidance to the point at a certain level of gear where these mobs literally just can't hit you. So it keeps you very safe. And there's sort of a critical mass of enemies that becomes too dangerous, specifically because your Holy Shield would run out of charges quick enough that you're sort of left without it for the majority of the pull. So if you're killing like 3 or 4 mobs per pull, Holy Shield is usually going to keep enough charges to stay up for its entire duration, and then when you put it back up again, it'll refresh and you'll just have it all the time. And that makes that size of pull very safe because you're never not without that extra 30% block. Now, you do have readout procs as well, which is going to give you the same level of mitigation as Holy Shield, but you can get Holy Shield and readout up at the same time. So you always want to make sure you're prioritizing Holy Shield over other things if it's not up. After Sacred Shield and Holy Shield, the next priority of ability is Judgment of Light. You want to make sure you have Judgment of Light up all the time, and ideally you want to make sure you have it up on 2 mobs all the time. And of course I already talked about this, but that's just to make sure you're getting the maximum procs per second from it. After Judgment, it's basically going to be up to you based on the situation you're in. If it's like a massive pull and you've got 2 packs or something, I would say the next prio should be Conk, just because of how much AoE damage it does. Or if it's like you're trying to burst a single mob down because it's healing or it's stunning you, then maybe Shield of Righteousness. But in general, you're just doing your normal tanking rotation and using all your moves when they come off cooldown. Just make sure that you're always keeping up Sacred Shield and you try to always have Holy Shield up. As far as kill prio, there's a couple mobs you definitely want to worry about. The first one is the Reaver. The Reavers are the ones who stun you. I've already talked about them a little bit. They're the reason you have to pick up Stoicism. In my opinion, those are the absolute number one. You have to kill those first because the stun makes you take a lot more damage. It also interrupts your rotation. The other mob that you could consider killing first is the Menders, because they heal all the bigger guys. All the non-dwarfs can get heals from the Menders. Which means if you're trying to kill Reavers and there's a Mender or 2 up, it might be harder to kill those Reavers quickly. So if you're going for pure speed and you just want to get everything down as fast as possible, I would say kill the Menders first. If you're going for survivability and you want to make sure you can get the pull down safely, I would recommend killing the Reavers first. After that, it's kind of just dealer's choice. It doesn't matter a huge amount. The Tacticians do have a move that they put on you that makes you take damage when you move, which can be a huge pain in the butt. So you could kill those ones next, or you could even kill those ones first if you know you're going to have to move the pack and you don't want to be taking a bunch of damage while you're moving. You could choose situationally to kill those first. The Zerkers, the Berserkers, and the Skycallers are pretty low prio. They don't really do anything dangerous. The Skycallers will be annoying if they get away from you and start shooting you with the knockback. But if you don't let that happen, that shouldn't happen. And otherwise, they don't do anything special. And then the Berserkers do a Fizz Dot, and then they like enrage at the end of their health, neither of which is dangerous. So you can definitely leave those guys to the end. As far as the Elemental section, there's no real reason to prio either. You could prio the Steam Ragers if you wanted to because they knock back, but ultimately it's not a huge deal. It's kind of up to you what you want to do there. So where does the money come from? The mobs themselves drop a good amount of money just on their own, but in addition to that, you're getting a lot of greens. So you can sell the greens to the vendor if you want, but if you have an enchanter or you are an enchanter, that's way more efficient. If you can disenchant all the greens and blues, that's going to be way better than selling them to the vendor, because Vellums are just insane. If you can turn these green drops into Vellums on the auction house, you're going to make just crazy profit. That's where I can make a lot of the money from this farm, honestly. But Relics of Ulduar also sell for a decent amount. They're coming way down now. This farm was way better for Relics of Ulduar before. But honestly, I still get like 650, 700 gold per hour from this farm, even with Relics of Ulduar being at like a gold 50 on my server. You really don't need them to sell super well to make a lot of money from this farm. The other thing you make money from is the Eternals. The Elemental section of this farm drops a lot of Eternal Fires and Eternal Waters. So if you sell those on the auction house or use them to make like a Titan Steel bar cooldown on your Miner character, that'll make you a bunch of money. So the combination of greens dropped, Relics of Ulduar dropped, Grays sold to the vendor, and Eternals sold to the auction house are going to make you a lot of money. A word about the boss. You can kill the boss if you want, but it's pretty slow. It's not really worth your time. If you do kill the boss, switch to Seal of Corruption for that. It'll be a lot faster. He just isn't worth the time it takes to kill him. He doesn't do that much damage to you. You can definitely do it if you have the gear for it, but I just wouldn't recommend it. A lot of times if I pull the boss, I'll just run out, and you can actually make it out from just about as far as you could possibly pull the boss from if you play it right and you have a bubble. So that's often a better option than trying to kill him, is just run out. You'll save a little bit of time that way. And if you're way behind on your timing for your resets, you can just reset once you run out and just start over again and do the most efficient part of the run, which is the very beginning, and get extra money from that. As far as consumables go, it's going to depend on how geared you are. If you're in like 25-man max gear like I am, it's gonna be just like put on some strength elixir and some strength scroll and just go a little faster. If your gear is lacking, you could try agility elixir and scroll to give yourself a little bit of a dodge boost. If you are really in trouble and you're finding yourself dying to those stuns a lot, you can pack some FAPs, and you'll be super safe. You just pop a FAP at the beginning of any pull that has like 2 or more Reavers, and focus the Reavers down before the FAP ends, and you'll be super safe. But not super necessary once you get in a groove and once you get geared and once you know what you're doing. Just focus those Reavers down early, and it shouldn't be too big of a problem. I think I covered everything. Let me know if I forgot anything in the comments. I hope you guys enjoyed doing this farm. I've been making an insane amount of money doing it. I farmed for like, I don't know, like a couple hours a day for a week and made like 15 grand. It's been just like so lucrative. And like I said, the prices for Relics of Ulduar aren't even high on my server. So if you're to sell for like 2 or 3 gold, you're going to make bank doing this farm. And yeah, let me know if you liked the video and if this helped. I hope so. See you guys next time.